I guess, like many of your students, I had ambitions of being a professional footballer. Um, and I was okay. I wasn't bad, but it was quite apparent to me early on that it was not going to quite come to fruition. And I was a bit lost, really. I didn't know what to do. I ended up deciding to do something I was passionate about, really. So I went and studied sports science and PE at John Moores University, not because I knew where it was going to take me or because I had a plan, just because I thought, well, I don't know what else to do. I might as well do something I'm really passionate about and something that I'm going to love, something I'm going to enjoy. From that, I ended up teaching. I had an amazing time as a PE teacher for a short period of time. And then I guess I got a little bit lucky. And I think amongst all the ingredients of kind of being successful, luck is quite important, but luck only seems to happen if you work hard and you're determined and you're committed and you keep crafting. So I managed to fall into a role at Watford Football Club, and I was there for 12 years, and I pretty much had a go at every single job in the academy. Was surrounded by some really wonderful people, had a great chance to express myself and learn on the job. And that ended up in me becoming the academy manager at Watford. And we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But the job really is about how do you help young people to fulfil their dreams and have the best chance possible to be a professional footballer. And Watford turned into a move to Sheffield United to do the same role, which has then ended up in me moving to Manchester United to take on the role as head of academy here.
Yeah.
But when I was right at the beginning of this journey, I was volunteering, I was coaching community groups, I was working on holiday camps, I was getting coaching badges, I was coaching different sports. I went to America and had a go at trying to coach there in my holidays. I was watching other coaches. I was just doing whatever it took to try and learn and get a little bit better and to keep practicing. And, with some commitment and dedication, it ends up kind of working out in a way that means I'm in a job of my dreams, really. I don't think I ever could have anticipated the role that I'm in.
Yeah.
So I guess the ultimate job of the academy is to try and help young footballers maximise their potential.
Yeah.
Ideally, we want them to go and play in our first team. If they don't go to play in our first team, we hope that they go and play in someone else's first team. But actually, for many of them, they won't do either of those things. Our academy has got the best reputation of helping young people become footballers. But still, the odds are stacked against the young people we work with. So the next best thing is that we want to make sure that the time that young people spend with us gives them a head start in life, that it teaches them good behaviours, that it shapes them as a person, that it's a really wonderful experience, that they see different parts of the world, that they meet people, that they have a great time, so that they look back on their experiences with us with really happy memories.
Yeah.
So my job really is to coordinate all the people that's going to make that happen for a young person. So if you think about our youngest players are kind of 8 and 9 years of age, our eldest are in their 20s trying to get in the first team or going out on loan. My job is to try and coordinate the coaches, the recruitment guys, the sports scientists, the psychologists, the medics, the administrators, the landladies, the logistical people, to make sure that everyone's got a bit of a coordinated approach to giving each of the players the right piece of support at the right time along the journey. So high performance for me is about an organisation where everybody understands what it is we're trying to achieve. So you have a common goal, so people know what it is we're working towards, and that every individual understands that when they arrive to work in the morning, exactly what it is they're accountable for, exactly what success will look like for them. And that if they do their job well and they're successful, how that contributes to the bigger piece of success for the whole organisation. So it's about having a direction of travel, having accountability, knowing what you're responsible for, but also then for each individual within the organisation to have someone who's going to give them the time and the space and the encouragement to express themselves, mess up a bit, make mistakes, try new things, explore stuff, develop as an individual. So it's not about accountability and the pressure all the time of having to get stuff right. It's about the freedom to understand what you've got to achieve, but the encouragement and the freedom to be able to express yourself and achieve it in your own unique fashion. My job's very different from maybe Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's job. Yeah. His job is about performance. His job is about how good, or the majority of his time is spent thinking about how do we win and how well can we perform today. Some of his time will be dedicated to preparing his players and developing them for the future, but he's under the pressure to win now. My job is about looking into the future. So it's about looking at potential. It's about looking at how a young person might be able to perform in the future. So I'm not looking for performance. I'm not looking for how good are you today. Always looking at how good are you tomorrow. Yeah. In order to try and work that out, we're always looking at athleticism. So how athletic are you, or could you be one day? We're looking at the skills you need for your particular position. So the techniques that are really important for the role that you're going to play in the team. And then we're looking at character. Yeah. So are you committed? Are you resilient? Are you a good learner? Do you deal with setbacks? Can you show perseverance? So we're looking at each of our players on those three aspects. But I would suggest that probably the most important ingredient for our young players is the characteristics. I call it spirit or warrior spirit. So it's the ability to learn, take on information, be resilient, be persistent, have an intrinsic motivation, have an intrinsic joy and love of what you're doing, and have the resilience to keep working at something that ultimately is a really, really difficult thing to be an expert at.
Yeah, definitely.
Let me talk in terms of the staff here. So for me, very simple. Our culture can be a complex thing, can't it? And it's really hard to articulate and describe it. But I think as an entry point for our staff here, I want them to make decisions in the best interest of the organisation and in the best interest of the young people that are within it, and put their ego to one side. And I think as long as every decision we make and every action we have has the good intention of supporting young people, but making sure our organisation is well served, we won't go too far wrong. Obviously, the football club's over 100 years old, and I like to think it will be here for another 100 years. We're just passing through. So our job is to hand the club on to the next people in a better condition than the way we found it. And our job is always to put the best interest of young people first. So I think, we could talk forever about culture, but as a kind of a very basic kind of entry level standard, I would suggest that those are the things that we'd be looking for.
Yeah.
Cool. So let's think about our young players. It boils back to character. Yeah. It boils down to people who have a joy for what they're doing, a love of the thing that they're engaged in, people that have the determination and the perseverance to keep going even when things are difficult, people that are prepared to support the people around them and not put their own development ahead of all other people. So never trample on other people in your pursuit of your own excellence. So that consideration for those people around you. Being able to do things with a smile on your face, being able to do things, live in the present moment. I think it's about enjoying where you are rather than worrying about where you might get to. I think those types of behaviours are probably the most important in young people. So this is going to sound a little bit unusual, but I think for anybody who's trying to become an expert in anything, so not just sport, but a musical instrument or a subject you might be learning at school, or being a dancer, you have to celebrate failure and you have to celebrate struggle, because through struggle and through failure is where the majority of your learning will take place. So if things are always comfortable and always easy, you're not actually working out what it is you need to be better at in order to reach your full potential. So if you can change everyone's mindset to be one whereby struggle's not much fun. I'm not suggesting people enjoy struggle, but when you find adversity and when you do struggle, to almost celebrate it and understand that that is an absolutely essential ingredient in success. And I think if you can have that mindset, it enables you to be a bit more resilient. And also having the mindset that to be never too high and never too low. Any line of work, any job, any passion, any pursuit of any excellence comes in waves. Don't get too high when things are good and don't get too low when things are bad. But accept that kind of the dark days are what help you to refine your own performances and your own skills in order to be the best performer possible in the long run. What a great question. I would suggest, if you look at most elite performers, even for the people whose journeys look smooth and for people who it looks like they've been an overnight success, their journey has been just riddled with setbacks and failures. So I would suggest that my career has been getting a lot of stuff wrong, not catastrophically, but on a regular basis, I didn't quite deal with that quite right, whether that be an interaction with a player or the way that you dealt with a parent. It's regularly getting things wrong and reflecting and thinking about how I could have done things better. But I would suggest that, let me try and think of a specific setback. So I'll give you a great one. 6 months into my time at Watford, the football club went into administration and had to make a lot of people redundant. I got made redundant 6 months in, and I think that I had two choices at the point at which I was made redundant. I could have sulked and I could have given up and I could have been a bit moody and I could have blamed a lot of people, or I could have done what I did do, which was to say, okay, how do I turn this into a positive? So I went to the club and I said, look, do you mind if for my own development I finished the season? We're 6 months into a season. Do you mind if I finish the season for free? I'll complete this work for you for free because it would be good for my development. I think I must have been in my early 20s at the time. It would be good for my development. And naturally, an organisation said, yes, of course, we'd love you to work for free. So I worked for free. And by the time we got to the end of that season, the club was in a position to re-employ me. I got re-employed. I was there for another 11 and a half years. So I think it's about, trying to turn bad situations into good ones. I look at what we're all going through right now in terms of pandemic. No one would choose to be going through it. It's not nice. We all want it to be over. But actually, there's a lot that's going on that I hope we manage to preserve when life goes back to normal. So people are starting to be more compassionate towards each other. People are being caring. You and I have worked a way of communicating using technology that we might never have used before. All of those types of behaviours out of a really terrible situation, there's going to be some really good stuff that will stick. So I just think, my advice would be, if you're going through a bad time, then absolutely see it as an opportunity rather than a failure, and use it to build and to be a better person and in a better position once you've been through it.
No, good.
Difficult to isolate kind of one thing, but my passion is people, and young people in particular, and helping young people to reach their full potential. I think over the years I've seen a lot of young people make their debuts. That's great fun, but when a young person makes a debut, you're not necessarily, you can't claim that as your own kind of success. I think that's always down to the young person, and you might have helped them a little bit. But along the way, I've probably supported young people to go off to university. I've supported boys that have maybe not quite reached where they thought they would as a footballer, but we've managed to help them go and find a career as a coach, or we've helped them to go and be a teacher, or we've helped them to go and explore a new career. I just think in general, for me, there's a lot of individual little stories and journeys about supporting young people that will live with me forever, and you stay in touch with those young people, and it's potentially when young people pick up the phone years after you've worked with them for a conversation or for a piece of advice is a marker of success.
Yeah, definitely.
I think it's really difficult to pick role models because I always think you've got to be the best version of yourself you possibly can be. All right, so you really have to, rather than idolize someone and try and be like them, what I think you actually have to do is steal the best qualities off a number of people and then use those to be a really authentic version of yourself or the best version of yourself. And I think you've got to hold yourself up as your own role model. You've got to every day think, am I a little bit better than I was last week? Am I slowly making progress? Am I a better person than I was a year ago? So it's about being the best version of yourself and stealing bits and pieces. And I guess over the years, I've worked with a number of people who perhaps if I say their name, you won't necessarily know who they are, but, you know, people that I've worked with that I've liked qualities in there, and I thought I'd like to kind of see if I can emulate some of the skills you've got or some of the qualities that you show or some of the traits that you have. So certain coach educators, certain of my own bosses, sometimes the young people that you work with inspire you, and you take some of the traits from the young people that you work with and you adopt them as your own. So I wouldn't hold up a role model in particular, but I think that in life you've just got to kind of surround yourself by good people, because I think you end up being a little bit like the people that you surround yourself with, and then steal the best bits of other people, but at all times try and be a unique and wonderful version of yourself and celebrate your own individual differences, I think. Give myself. Well, that's an interesting one, isn't it? I think advice is always difficult, isn't it? Because you can hand out advice, and I remember as a kid, people giving me advice. Sometimes you've got to go out there and learn it for yourself. So people can tell you, don't touch that hot plate, you'll burn your hand. But it's not until you've touched the hot plate and burnt your hand that you go, I'm not doing that again. So, advice can be futile at times. I think what I would give myself is reassurance. So as a kid, I think I was quite ambitious. And I knew that I wanted to achieve certain things. And I think if I were to go back and I could have a conversation with myself as a young man, I'd say, calm down, it's all going to be all right. If you put the effort in and you show some persistence, it's all going to be all right. Don't worry. It's going to work out exactly as it's meant to be. I never could have imagined that I'd be sitting in the seat that I'm sitting in. And if someone had told me that as a kid, I wouldn't have believed them. So, just have faith in your own abilities and just have faith that things are going to work out exactly as they're supposed to be. If you conduct yourself properly, you apply yourself, things will work out as they're meant to be. And as I said at the beginning, I started off in pursuit of trying to be a professional footballer, and I failed. And I potentially that could have felt like the end of the world, but actually I think it's probably unraveled in such a way that I've actually ended up on a different journey, and maybe a journey that I'm finding as just as enjoyable or even more enjoyable. Just have faith that things are going to be all right. What a horrible question. I'm blessed. I've seen them both play live. And I will go with Ronaldo, although they're both wonderful versions of themselves, aren't they? I'll go with Ronaldo because I have to, because of the Manchester United connections. And it probably boils down to personal preference. I quite enjoy Ronaldo's athleticism and his prowess, and maybe even some of his arrogance. I think he's more of a showman, and I quite like showmanship. Football is an entertainment business, isn't it? And I think he's a bit more of a showman. But very difficult to call a difference between the two of them. But Ronaldo's just my preference, I think.
Awesome.